Ray Epps is finally being charged for his involvement in January 6th. NATO is not allowing Ukraine to be admitted quite yet after their summit in Lithuania. And a cycling organization has decided that they're going to create a third category for transgender individuals. My name is Olivia Claire. Welcome back to the Dumpster Fire podcast. I am joined, of course, as always, by my producer. Would you please introduce yourself?
Hey, it's Derek. How you guys doing?
And before we get into our content today, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more awesome content. And don't forget to sign up for our Patreon for exclusive content you guys won't find anywhere else. Our first story today is that Ray Epps is finally being charged after his involvement in January 6th, where we have video evidence. It took 2.5 years for this to happen, which is just crazy. We have Daily Wire reporting last night that buried deep in a lawsuit that Epps is filing, lawyers said that the Department of Justice recently informed him that they're planning to prosecute him for his involvement, and that there are multiple video clips of him the day before and the day of to Trump supporters saying to go into the Capitol the next day or go into the Capitol that day. And then, of course, we have his lawsuit against Fox. We have that from Axios here saying that he emerged as the center of right-wing conspiracy theories after he participated in the January 6th Capitol riot. He's accusing Fox News and Tucker Carlson specifically of spreading falsehoods that he was an undercover FBI agent that was there at the scene responsible for inciting a riot. He said that just like they focused on the Dominion voting machines and blaming it for the results of the 2020 election, it's very similar here, trying to find a scapegoat. And he said that Tucker Carlson specifically has created a years-long campaign against Ray Epps. So all of that being said, that's kind of the bigger story here. And I mean, you have videos of somebody, like regardless, in Minecraft, allegedly, he is a federal agent. Okay? Allegedly, he is, but he says he is not. So regardless, he says that they're defaming him by claiming falsehoods. Now, I've seen no documentation to provide for sure if or not that he's a federal agent. To be honest, I kind of gave up on the whole Ray Epps thing like 2 years ago because it gets boring. I mean, I feel like a lot of people see this when we're talking about the 2020 election in general. We get kind of bored with it. And so, like, the Dominion voting machine thing was exhausted. The Ray Epps stuff was exhausted. But then he went to say, I'm going to sue Fox News now that I have charges being brought against me, and now everyone's talking about it again. But now that action is actually being taken, I feel like it is the right time to talk about it. Just knowing what we know now. So he, man, I mean, it's a good thing that they're actually trying to lock people up who actually did something this time. That's usually a pretty good thing, considering the fact that there's people waiting in a jail cell against their Bill of Rights, rights, like their literal rights.
Yeah, someone being in there for over 2.5 years without charge.
Solitary.
Yep.
Solitary confinement, which messes with you. And like, I understand these things take time, but it doesn't take 2.5 years to, first of all, figure out what you're going to charge someone with. In the case of the guy I can't remember his name, but the guy that's been locked up for 2.5 years after this, with no charges, forcing him to take a deal for a crime he probably didn't commit. I don't know what they're trying to charge him with or what the plea bargain is for technically, but I do also know that, like, so I live in Michigan, you guys know that. In the city of Grand Rapids, there was a famous case of Patrick Loyola. I can never say it. It's like Loyola or something like that. And this is one of those cases where I think the police officer should be charged. It was pretty bad. He didn't have documentation or something was going on. It ended up in an on-foot pursuit. And the cop tackled him, but instead of trying to just like shoot him in like a leg or something, just subdue him or tase him, the cop shot him executioner style in the back of the head.
That's not.
I'm sorry, but like that's the number one thing in self-defense cases is if someone is shot in the back of the head or their back or just like somewhere in
any execution style.
Not by the front, but from the back. Any shot from the back is clear someone was trying to run away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they won't let you do that in the case. Like if you're trying to claim, this is like
you can't claim self-defense.
You can't claim self-defense when you shot someone in the back.
Yeah.
And so the fact he had him down on the ground and there was backup then in pursuit as well. He shot him, like, that's the one case, but like even then people are complaining that case is taking too long, and that happened like a year or two ago. and they're still trying. But they have charges, right? They have real charges
Yep.
against him that they're bringing up, and they're providing these. Like it's different than the situation with this. Again, I can't remember his name, but the guy sitting in a jail cell right
I
now
tried
in
I tried
solitary
looking it up,
confinement.
but I can't find it right now. I'll keep
Weird,
looking for his name.
weird. It's almost like Google isn't letting you try to find it.
I know.
But with Ray Epps, the fact that they didn't even try, like they had video evidence and they didn't try to lock this guy up, at least hold him or have him pay a bond or have him like if he pays a bond or whatever, then like it's fine to show up for your trial date. That's how the criminal justice system works. He didn't do anything inherently violent. But if the right he did incite caused the death of Ashley Babbitt, that's another story. But we don't have proof of that, and it's kind of a reach. So you have to just get him on inciting a riot on federal grounds, and they're finally doing that. But I just feel like it's too little, too late, because it's been years of this, and now he's saying, "Oh, I'm going to sue them for defamation because these things aren't true," and that's a suit he could win depending on the judge. So that's a little bit concerning that he could actually win this lawsuit and still be prosecuted. I mean,
Yep.
both things can be true at one time. Did you end up finding his name?
Nope, I can't find his name right now. There's a bunch of articles.
Weird.
There's a bunch of articles that will just talk about the January 6th. It just gives lists of people who are a bunch of articles that just talk about this person, this person, this person have been locked up, but it doesn't want to talk about the
Yeah, I think that
I,
multiple
there
times.
I know there is
Multiple.
one person that is locked up right now that has not been charged.
Yeah. Like as we're
Eventually,
speaking, this person's in a jail cell. Like that's
they're in
crazy.
a jail cell, not
2023.
charged, and they're not like and trying to find it. You just get buried in news articles that talk about just all of them and all the January Sixers who were jailed as total, but not like the one guy that's sitting in a cell in solitary,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't.
Crazy. I know.
And then you got
Crazy.
Ray Epps who took 2.5 years while other guys got no knocked rated like weeks after January 6th for doing way less than he was, where he was, encouraging and inciting people to, quote, allegedly, I got put up the allegedly because, we're not, I don't want to get sued by Ray Epps too. But yeah, all in Minecraft, he was telling people to rush the Capitol.
Yeah, exactly. And like there's video footage of it. Yeah, it's bad. The whole thing is bad. And but I'm just glad they finally got this brought up. It's happening, and finally we're seeing some sort of justice, but it's delayed and it's kind of too like I said, too little, too late. A cycling organization in the United States has created a third category to allow for transgender athletes to compete without infringing on the rights of mainly female athletes. And we have it here from Timcast that the race officials now say that they want to protect the parity of sports between women and men. This is a huge win for sports, for female sports and stuff. So this was, I hate this name, but the Belgian Waffle Ride is the organization where they're saying that applicable August 1st of this year, so just in a few weeks here, that the following race classifications will exist. So females, males, and then open. So
Open.
the thing is that for the female one, I thought this was interesting. The female one, it has to be born biologically female, and then males, you can be born or identify as a male because obviously a woman saying that they're a man is still going to be at a disadvantage to the men in the field, whereas a man saying he's a woman will be at a big advantage in the field. And then open, regardless of gender identification, you may compete in this classification. So yeah, I mean, this is huge. Like it's a story that's kind of gone under the radar, and I'm like, that's actually kind of a bigger story than I think people are letting out. Like the fact, so a male cyclist had won an event, and that's what triggered this. You won first place, and they were like, okay, we need to fix this. And they're actually, regardless of the fact they let him compete in the first place, it wasn't right. But now they're fixing that, which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's huge. That does not ever happen in sports. We never see that happen. And so that's awesome. And like huge props to this organization for doing that. And then Tim Katz for reporting it. So I wanted to mention that story because I think it's very important to really talk about how this is fighting against a narrative, and I'm surprised we haven't seen more backlash. I think it's because it's not like a giant organization. We're not
No.
seeing like
If you saw
a
like
backlash though.
something the size of like the Tour de France or something like that. I don't know if there's anything that big in the United States, but like
No.
something along those lines where you're gonna have a race. I mean, you gotta think back, like all sports, like was it Brittany? Not Brittany Griner. Who's that swimmer? Who's that swimmer? Who's the swimmer?
Oh, Leah Thomas.
Leah Thomas. Look how much she beat the rest of the female athletes by. Like it
Yeah,
was
that was insane.
miles ahead of everyone else, and you can't treat women and men the same. They're
No,
biologically not. Men have always been naturally more athletic, more it's just it's
more muscle.
biology, and sorry to say it, but I mean a woman's not going to be able, on average. I mean, yeah, you're going to have some outliers, of course, but on average, you're going to have the average man is always going to be stronger than the average woman. That's just a fact of life. And there's nothing that's really going to change that. It's a fact in sports where you have um, Leah Thomas, who was not even top 200, win women's swim. So
Yeah, like nationally, like
nationally,
nationally
yeah,
win that. And like the thing is, like I I really don't care if someone decides to transition, but don't then go and like just start dunking on other people's achievements. Like the poor girl that came in second place, and like, was that Riley Gaines, or I don't know if
yep.
she was second place. Was it Riley Gaines in
I
second
think it was
place?
Riley
I know
Gaines.
that she's very outspoken now. She was there, and she was part of this event,
Hmm.
and she was like, I should have gotten, whether it was first or second, whatever place she would have been in. She's still saying, regardless of that, it's inappropriate that
Yep.
this person won, and that even if it was just a fellow swimmer, that like another female who's worked their entire lives, and it was a senior too. I remember that, regardless if it was Riley or not, it was a senior, last national competition ever, got it taken away because a man decided that he wanted to not be a man, which is like, okay,
And
that's great, but like,
how do you really test that they're, they claim to be transgender, so then they should be on hormones for it, but how do you really test? And I don't think they're real stringent on testing that, oh, they're taking a proper amount of estrogen. They're,
well, and like how long they've been, whatever. Like,
yeah.
regardless, it doesn't matter. Someone could be on it for 30 years, and they're probably still going to be a hell of a lot stronger than a
Well,
female
yeah,
just
because
existing, right?
especially if they did it after they hit puberty, which
Yep.
they should not be on it before puberty, mind you.
No,
That's
it
no,
shouldn't be on it
that's definitely
all. But
yeah,
yeah,
no.
I get what you're
But
saying.
like at that point, their bone structure, their muscle, like they've already like a lot of those tissues and bones have already grown into a male. Like if they're males transition to females, that structure is going to be so much stronger. I mean, it's there's no competition between men and women. It's why Dana White won't let trans fighters into the ring because if any guy goes in there against a girl, he's gonna maybe not
Beat the shit out
against
of her.
Amanda Nunes, she's kind of a beast, but everyone else is gonna get smacked.
No, like, gonna be like, get the shit beat out of them, right?
Yeah,
Like, it's like, I would never want to put a woman and a man in a ring and be like, all right, fight.
go at it.
No,
Have fun,
no, that's so bad.
man. Any guy that's always wanted to beat his wife can just
Okay, Derek.
Anyways,
Wrong. Okay,
no.
so yeah, I just feel like this is a huge win. It's something that is kind of, because it's cycling, it's not like swim or something. It's
Mhm.
just kind of being like under the radar, but I
Yeah.
wanted to bring attention to it. I think it's a very important story. So this next story we have here from Daily Wire. The White House has updated or the Secret Service rather, has updated this investigation into the cocaine that they found. And guess what? They have no suspect.
It was actually me.
Crazy.
It was
No,
actually
oh, it
me.
was you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about
They
that.
have no suspect. They said that their leading theory is that a guest had brought it in and like left it there. And no further details are going to be revealed about the investigation because they're closing it. What?
You know,
What?
I read an article, a separate article where it's from a former Secret Service member, and they said the only people that would be able to sneak stuff like that in are family members
Family
and
members of.
close friends. But even close friends still have, go through some security checks. But family members, they
Yeah,
don't get.
family members have less security because they're surrounded
They
by.
have no security. The security
Well,
they
they have
have is
agents.
protect. Yeah, they're the ones being
They
protected.
have
They're
Secret Service by their
yeah
side all the time,
yeah
so why would they need to go through Secret
yeah.
Service to get in when they constantly have Secret Service with them?
Hmm.
And, it's just so interesting to me that if this had been the Trump White House, John Jr., like all his kids would have been immediately tested. They said they couldn't find fingerprints on the baggie, which I
Sure.
don't know. I don't know I don't know how that stuff works, but like
I'm pretty sure
you
there's a
can
print
find
of
it
it.
in normal case when someone gets pulled over in their car and you check the fingerprints on the bag and you use your
They can
gloves and
find
stuff then.
fingerprints on like t-shirts. And you're telling me that
Yeah.
whoever brought this cocaine in licked it off or wore gloves when they were doing it? I mean, come on. Let's be
Like,
real.
were they that smart? Like, really?
Yeah.
You weren't suspicious when someone walked in with like plastic? Well,
Yeah.
I guess maybe with COVID stuff, they're like, but
Yeah.
okay, you have no suspect at all when
None.
everyone can confirm we know one. There's at least
In
one known cocaine
Minecraft, they
user.
tested it and found it was Hunter Biden, but that was in Minecraft. But in real
Oh, it
life,
was in Minecraft. So the
yeah.
cover, the potential cover up was in Minecraft, right?
Yes. Yes. Yep.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
In
Yep. Yep.
Minecraft, it was covered up,
Mhm.
and it was Hunter Biden, and they just covered it because Daddy's money and Daddy's
Mhm.
president, and so
Daddy's
we don't
pressing.
want it to look bad. Daddy's a Democrat. That's what it is. Daddy's a Democrat,
Daddy's
and
a Democrat.
so Daddy's a Democrat, and so they can't let that happen. And I just think this is so it's just such bullshit. Like I've seen like this coverage from like the like left wing mainstream media like laughing about it, and I'm like, dude, if that had been found in Trump's White House and the whole White House had to be evacuated, you're telling me right now you want to make this the biggest news story? Like, it's
Oh,
so hypocritical.
they'd be railing Trump right now. They'd be saying it's either Trump, his wife, his son, his. They'd even blame Barron, saying Barron's having
They'd be like, Barry may have had it in the White House. He's a kid. He
Barron's.
does those things.
He was having a rough stint with his terrible authoritarian father. He was just needed to take the edge off by doing bumps in the White House. Yeah, that's what they would be
But
saying.
it's
But
okay. Still arrest him. Like
yes,
that. It would have been open and shut case in 2 days, and they would have pointed to someone in Trump's family if this had been the same scenario, just a different president. Now
he would have
again,
gotten
it's not like
impeached
we see
again.
coked out. We don't see coked out Don Jr. walking around or anything, and we don't have evidence of him, using cocaine. So it's
But
like,
we have
okay, like
evidence of someone else. I
in
mean,
Minecraft, we have
video
evidence.
evidence on a certain laptop that he takes
It's so
lots.
weird that we can get video evidence of specific people, yet they do not have to pay for their actions. Like,
Wasn't he?
you're telling me it's like,
Wasn't Hunter just charged for something that he got off like
I
super
think it
easy?
was, yeah, there was something that happened. It was like it wasn't criminal though, I don't think. I think
No, it
it
wasn't
was
a
like
criminal charge, but he
a
got like,
civil case or something.
yeah, he just got probate. No, he got probation. That's what he got.
It wasn't like violent or anything like that. It was
No,
like
I
a
thought
very
wasn't like
like,
a.
it
I
was
thought it
like
was like a
a,
drug charge he just got charged with or something.
I don't know. He got some case where
I'll
he
look it
did
up.
get like a slap on the wrist, and they're like, shoot, it's just being a boy, guys being dudes. Like, are you kidding me? And I'm so sick of the mainstream media, specifically left wing mainstream media, taking these things and acting like they're normal and that these things happen all the time. And regardless if drugs are in the White House or not, God, what? What was the charge?
Uh, two. Well, he pled guilty to two misdemeanor tax charges. He failed to
Tax charge. See, I
file
thought it
his
was something
tax.
like financial
Yeah,
or
he failed to
whatever. But if
file
that
his
was Trump,
tax. I mean, I thought Trump got impeached for tax stuff, but
tax breaks and stuff,
Hunter Biden didn't pay
it's
taxes.
a misdemeanor.
It's a
And Daddy's a Democrat. Don't forget. Like, that's just gonna
Yeah.
be my every time someone does something stupid, I'm just gonna be like, well, Daddy was a Democrat, and so it doesn't matter. Like, the mainstream media takes these things and they either blow them out of proportion when it's someone they don't like, or they take someone they do like and they're like, it's just a silly little thing that happened.
He's a
And I'm
silly guy.
just so silly. It's just he's the silliest of gooses.
He's the
And he is
silliest
on the
goose.
loose. He's the silliest goose on the loose, and that's how the cocaine got there. Like, are you kidding me?
With them
Are you
fake ass
kidding
teeth.
me? Like, are you joking right now? Like, I'm so sick of media being so hypocritical and not calling it like they see it. And it's like, then they say, like, oh, well, we're fair and honest. Like, okay, fair and honest, my ass, dude. Like, come on. Like, no, that is so much faker than Kim Kardashian's ass, is all I'm saying. And so I'm over it.
That's saying a lot.
Over the mainstream media. I know, that's very, very fake. We're gonna go ahead and jump into this very last story that we have here. The NATO summit took place. Now, we've talked about NATO on this channel before. NATO's been kind of back in the news lately with the Ukraine conflict. Well, they have a summit every year. I think it's once a year they have a giant summit where they all meet, and they have other times during the year where they might meet as well. The big summit this year took place in Lithuania, and CNN reported that the summit ended on Wednesday with a joint declaration from G7 leaders for their nations to negotiate long-term bilateral security commitments for Ukraine to build up its land, air, and sea defense to deter future Russian attacks. Now, people went into this hoping that they were hoping for two things. Three things really. The first one they got, which is that they got security promises for Ukraine. They didn't get the two other things they wanted, which was two new members. They wanted Sweden. Okay. I guess strategically, the location makes sense. And then they wanted Ukraine, obviously. So Turkey pulls a whole fast one here all of a sudden and vetoes Sweden. They're like, yes, but not yet. That's exactly what they said. Yes, but not yet. Based Turkey. So they were like, yeah, no. And that kind of shocked everybody and caused an uproar. Now there's been viral photos of Zelensky kind of walking around awkwardly at the NATO summit and what do we do?
Yeah, everyone's in there in their dress suits, and then you got Zelensky. Yeah, I can't say his name. Zelensky.
And his polo.
Yeah, and, he always I understand that he's in a war and stuff, and he wants to have that look like he's on the front lines.
He's the average guy. Yeah. He's just your
average guy, but come on, dude. You could wear.
I don't think I've ever seen him wear a suit.
I think I've seen one photo of him in a suit, and that was pre. That was and I think it was a pre-World War II.
It was during his acting years.
No, it was when he first got elected before the Russian invasion. But now he only wears his military uniform basically everywhere. His
or he'll just wear a
sweatshirt
shirt and pants,
kind of like a U.S. representative or senator that wears a hoodie and jeans.
A Carhartt hoodie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow.
What is it with?
Yeah. I don't get why these people that want to be taken so seriously dress to not be taken so seriously, because I'm like, if you want to be taken seriously, there's always that mantra of you go into a job interview and you think you're not going to get it, and they're like, well, basically fake it till you make it. Dress the part, look the part, act the part, and you'll be fine. Now, I will say that a lot of his speeches and stuff he does, I don't speak Ukrainian, so I see the translated versions, but he's a great orator, right? He's a good speaker. He is awesome with carrying a presidential presence in the way he carries himself, but the way he dresses and the way that sometimes he met with freaking Greta Thunberg a few weeks ago.
Why?
What?
What does she have to offer?
The environmental damage being done by the war, or something that.
The environmental damage. You talk about the environmental damage.
That's really the concern.
Let's talk about the cluster bombs that we're sending over to Ukraine right now. And if anyone doesn't know what they are, basically it's a giant warhead that has dozens to hundreds of smaller bombs inside. And when the missile or whatever it's containing gets close to the target, it blows open, and then all those little bombs go over an area and explode over. You can get a 100-meter radius of but the problem is those cluster bombs. Not every single bomb explodes, so then you have little bombs there, just sitting there in the ground.
Almost like the DMZ, where they have leftover grenades and
in shells and anywhere in Europe where you have dummy bombs that go to Vietnam, unexploded bombs. 93, I think the statistic was 93% of those cluster bombs, the deaths are civilian after the bomb was exploded.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, so
crazy.
We're just gonna kill a bunch of Ukrainian children now because they're gonna be throwing rocks at these bombs.
But Russia's doing it, so it's okay.
Yeah, Russia's doing it. So if Russia does it, so if Russia does it, that means we can do it. So
if your friend's gonna jump off a bridge, are you gonna jump off a bridge? It's the same thing. It's
that's the same logic.
Why would you make it okay? It's not okay, and it never will be okay because everyone's claiming we care. Well, again, my biggest issue with the false claim of caring so much about the Ukrainian people is that you only care because you're told to care about them. Because last time I checked, it was you don't care about the Ukrainians. You care enough to not like the Russians. You don't give a shit about
They care about current thing. They care about current thing.
They care about the current thing, and they don't care about the Ukrainians being safe. They care about the Russians not growing their power. They don't care about the human rights, because if we care about human rights, where are we in Africa? Why aren't we in China helping the Uyghur population when there's 3 million plus people being killed in these labor camps right now and working them to death and dehydrating them? Why aren't we trying harder with North Korea? Oh, because it's not geopolitically or economically a good thing for us?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. It's almost like everything comes back to economics most
Yeah.
of the time,
Well,
and
we
so
can't.
we
There's
don't want
nothing
Russia
to
to
exploit.
grow.
We can't exploit them. What are we going to exploit from North Korea besides a bunch of,
Starved
refugees? We're
people,
just going to
like,
get refugees from them. Why
mhm.
China? I mean, they're too big
But we'll
to
take the
care about.
Ukrainian
Oh
ones
yeah, the
because
Ukrainian
it's
ones.
against
It's not
Russia.
because Ukraine just discovered like 10 years ago, like one of the largest reserves of natural gas in the Black Sea. Not that at all. We don't care about that. How that could undermine
No, it's not
Russian. Yeah.
the wheat distribution
Yeah,
that they
the
have. It's
weed.
not like all the
Yeah,
grains they
this is
have
not
that
totally
they
not an
export.
economic war where,
Every war
yeah,
is economic.
that's what it
Every
is.
war is economic.
Hmm.
So, like, as someone who studied political science, and I'm not a very big like economics person, I don't like for the life of me cannot grasp most. Like, I can grasp the major stuff, right? But like the more intricate stuff, I have a hard time grasping. Even I can tell you that like you can say what you want about war with the political side of it and like all of the other stuff like the diplomacy. All war is based on economics. Okay. And if it's not based on economics, it's based on a retaliation to somebody like World War II.
Hmm.
But still, we had the war machine. We were able to grow that. We had the military industrial complex that we could grow and make money off of.
Yep.
So, like, it wasn't just, oh, we were attacked, of course, but why didn't we just go and bomb the hell out of Japan right away? Why didn't we go attack them right away? We had bombs. We didn't have an atomic bomb, but we had bombs. We had things we could drop. We had stuff we could really screw them over with. But no, we decided to go to the front lines. We went to Normandy. We went to
Well,
Germany.
we
We went to
did
all these
bomb
places.
Japan. We firebombed. We killed more people with the firebombings of Japan than the two nuclear bombs that dropped on them. Tokyo was burnt to the ground from the firebombing raids.
Right, but we didn't go solely to
No,
Japan. We
no,
then
because
went
the
and
bigger
deployed people
focus,
all over the
yeah,
world.
yeah, the bigger focus was
And
Germany
so
because Germany was the,
we didn't like them and we didn't want them to become a big economic machine like their
yeah,
goal was to gain that power. And so it's all down to economics because business, war, relationships, everything comes down to economics.
for
I
all the
mean,
money.
you can literally take this down. You can literally take this down to a like individual. Like when people look for a partner, they look for someone who can take care of them. That's economics, right? Like you want someone who can take care of you. Like a woman looks for a man who has a good income so they can be taken care of. Like it goes all the way down to like the individual level. But
Hmm.
like then you take that to the more macro level and you look at it. So why are we building a relationship with China now when we know that China is systematically killing the Uyghur people? Oh, because they make cheap products that we can get. Oh, okay. Okay, so it's economics, right? That's it always comes back to economics. All war is economics and it's stupid. War is stupid, okay? I understand that there's some needs to defend yourself and needs for national security, and I'm all for, national security and I believe in it. But I think actively going to wars that we're not directly involved in is also so stupid. I
I mean,
can't. It makes me very
war
angry.
is war is just war. We've been fighting wars since the start, and and there's many wars to come in the future. I don't think there's any way to stop a war unless you
Yeah.
all just subserve to me and declare me the world leader. Then we can stop all
Yeah,
wars. I
don't do
will
that.
stop
Bad
war,
idea,
but
guys.
but
Bad. No, he won't.
besides that,
No, he won't, because he'll
yeah,
get mad at someone and be petty, and then be like, actually, just drop the bomb.
yeah, drop the
No, that's
bomb,
actually me, like low key.
the
But
big
like,
red button.
no, so like, he's gonna be like, oh, look at the button. Yeah, no, it's not even gonna be like on purpose. He's just gonna be like, oh, button. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, big red
but for
button.
like,
Boop.
yeah. So for me, it's like another thing, just kind of closing out the war conversation, is we've always been at wars, but the United States is that weird like aunt that needs to know everyone's business. Like they're like, okay, so like tell me what's the drama? What's going on? Like or like the nosy parent, the nosy aunt, the nosy family member who needs to know everything. And so they get involved in everything because they need to be involved. They seek that. That's the United States. We're all over the place
Af
because we have to intervene because we need to know what's going on. We
well,
need
after the
influence. We
fall of the
have to have power.
Soviets, we went from a bipolar to a unipolar world order, where the United
Well, now we're
States
heading
reigns.
towards like a tripolar world
Yeah, it's a
order, and
multipolar world we're going to, and the U.S. isn't ready for
that's
that. You
bad.
have the
That
BRICS
is so bad.
nations. The BRICS nations
So
just
bad.
are starting to release a new currency that's on the gold standard, I can't say how actually strong it's going to be. I personally am of the camp that it's probably not going to be as big of effect as people are kind of hyping it up to be, but it's still
But
going to
it's
be
not arbitrary like the US dollar is
no. But
anymore. Like
that's the
it's
problem. Like maybe now it's not going to hurt us, but maybe like
but
10,
down the
15,
road.
20
Yeah.
years in the future, if
I think
this is
we'll see it
more
in our
adopted,
lifetimes.
yeah, our later years, in our 40s and 50s, we'll start to see as the dollar
Yeah.
weakens and weakens. I mean, every fiat currency's failed, and every country that's been at the top has fallen. Like you got the UK, the Dutch, the Spanish. I mean, you go back in history. There's no one's reigned supreme forever.
Empires that don't exist anymore. Like
The
the
Romans. I
Ottoman
mean,
Empire was huge and
yep.
now it just doesn't exist. Now, that's the thing is like multipolar worlds never work. Every single time we've
Unipolar
had a
worlds don't
multipolar,
work.
they don't need no. The most stable system is a bipolar world. Okay, you have two powers that are too afraid of mutually assured destruction. And because of the mutually assured destruction, and then you have the two spheres of influence, and then maybe a small non-aligned movement. The Cold War, despite it being the Cold War, is probably one of the most stable periods in history because it, again, diplomatically, no. Was there fear? Sure. But I'm talking about as far as like looking at these two powers that were able to maintain that level of, I guess,
I
stability.
I would say the most peace we've had was 90s through 2000s minus like the Middle East. I mean,
I mean, that's still a unipolar world, though, and that's not
yeah.
stable. I'm talking like
I don't
long
think
term stability.
I don't think you're ever gonna find a system where you're gonna get stability because at the end of the
I
day,
know, but the most stable is definitely a bipolar, then tripolar, then unipolar, then multipolar. So like the issue with multipolar is World War One. You can point to it easily and be like, "This is the issue. Entangling alliances in a multipolar system will cause the downfall of all the alliances and will cause massive wars. And the only reason it became a world war and not just a war between two nations is because of alliances and because it was a multipolar war and so you have these little factions of everybody and they're just going to fight each other, but you have two bigger powers who can kind of be like, yeah, don't do that because I have control over you, kind of almost like parents. It's like weird, you're like, don't do that because it's like a divorced
yep.
parent situation where you're like, don't do that because it's a stupid idea to like a little nation who might be trying to do something really
Don't do
stupid.
that or else we'll send the CIA and say CIA in there and overthrow your government. So be nice.
So like you maintain the peace because you know that the other options are so much worse, which is why we never saw like an all out like hot war. Like I'm excluding Vietnam from this, right? I'm talking about between the Soviet Union and the United States.
No.
We never saw an all out hot war. And yeah, we were in war in some other places, but that was the US being the United States and being nosy and doing all those things. But as far as like going to war with like an enemy, we didn't really do that. Which is big. We got involved on other people's behalves in most places, but we never got involved directly.
No.
We never went to war with the Soviet Union.
We
We
only
went
picked
to
on the little
proxy wars,
nations.
but yeah, we like to screw them over, but not the bigger ones, right? So
Yeah.
that's the problem with like turning into a tripolar system. Is like, okay, it's like the second one, but like you'd rather be at like a bipolar world where you have two strong nations with their spheres of influence on opposite ends of the world where you're literally not even connected because of the oceans. Like
hmm
that is the most stable you can get because you're not in your there's not someone in your back door knocking with a gun.
Yep.
Like
I mean, we have had seen probably the best amount of peace since the end of World War II. And I'm not going to count Ukraine as a major nation, but there has not been a single major nation been at war since the end of World War II. And Ukraine is not a major nation by any means. It's fairly poor.
with the US backing
Yeah.
it, it becomes a
Yeah,
major
it's not even a
state, right? A major
it's no
player.
different than like how the Russians couldn't, do shit or how we could do shit in Vietnam. It's no different than that. You just big nations can, they can
They
be
can support, but they can't
yeah,
win it for you.
you can't win everything.
So
All right.
yeah, so I think yeah, we had some good discussions today. It was a good one. I feel like we went in kind of like like it might be a quick episode, but we actually had some good topics there
Yeah.
to talk about. So thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate your guys' support. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and go to our Patreon for $1, $3, or $5 a month to support us and get some content. I know we have some blooper reels that we'll be getting up there soon. And I'm going to try to post more actively on there once things settle down in my life a little bit. But we'll get to that. We'll be live on Sunday, of course. We don't have a guest yet, but tentatively we might not. I don't know yet.
We'll see.
But we will be live Sunday afternoon or evening at some point. Again, thank you so much for the support. If you guys want to follow Derek at Twitter, you can go ahead and do that at Real Derek Benson. If you want to follow me personally on social media, you can find me at Olivia Claire, 3 A's and Olivia, 2 E's and Claire on Instagram and on Twitter. And then, of course, you can follow our podcast at TD Fire Podcast on Twitter for more updates and information about when we're going live and who we're going live with. We will see you guys live on Sunday with a new live episode.
All right, see you guys.
Bye.